Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Israelites, I want to do this video. Man, I want to do this video, man, about, that it's not about the degree of pigmentation one has, but the worship of YAH. It's not about the degree of pigmentation one has, but the worship of YAH. And it just so happened that we Israelites are, a pigmented people, and that we had Israelites that didn't have a high degree of pigmentation. This race issue and classifying people in ethnic groups and so forth, instead of tracing their lineage to Prophet Noah's sons. They've been deceptive when they classify folks as black, yellow, and red and so forth, and then they kind of like took those symbols from the Tanakh, in the book of Zechariah when it was dealing with the horses. I guess they classified, the nations, in those terms. The Chinese are considered the yellow folks, and the so-called Caucasians are considered the white folks, and the so-called Africans are considered the black folks, and you got folks in between, but we know Almighty Yah heritage is like a speckled bird unto him, a bird of prey, a speckled bird, and how, he not judging us by our pigmentation, because he the creator all, but he judging you by your love and willing to serve him. Now that's what it's about. That's why come it's not about the degree of pigmentation one has, but the worship of Yah. I could show in the Tanakh that it was people that didn't have pigmentation, yet they was Israelites. Or they didn't have the degree of pigmentation like the regular, the rest of the Israelites, and that, they didn't have that degree of pigmentation, and that's in the Tanakh, and they was part of the tribes. Alright, we're going to go into some of this, but I want to establish that Almighty Yah wanted us to worship him. He wanted us to worship him, and it's not about your ethnicity, But let's go into this. Look, go to Deuteronomy. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 7, and then I'm going to read this. And when the Elohim thy Yah shall bring thee into the land, whether thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Gershurites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Havites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Elohim thy Yah shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, no show mercy unto them, neither shalt thou make marriage with them. Thy daughters shalt thou not give unto their sons, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn. Look what it says, for they will turn, certainly. Look, this why come we didn't marry peoples that wasn't Israelites, even though we did, throughout Tanakh, mixed with the other folks, but it was important for us not to, because of this right here, and you can see the consequences of this right here now today. Every Israelite that married outside their ethnicity, 9 out of 10 worship men another god, false gods, and so forth. Look, neither shalt thou make marriage with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. See, so will the anger of the Elohim be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. Now, you see that? That was our reason for not messing with other ethnicities and other peoples, even though it was non-pigmented peoples among us that was Israelites, and I'm gonna show this. But the main reason for not mixing up and mating with the other ethnic groups is that they didn't worship Yah, and they'll turn you to their gods, because Almighty Yah gave his laws to Prophet Moses, for the Israelites to be a priestly nation. Look, for thou art an holy people unto the Elohim thy Yah. The Elohim thy Yah had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So he created everybody on the face of the earth. All the ethnic groups, he created. I believe this meant a little bit, because when you go back to Genesis and so forth, and then talk about the gold, and then we know that all the gold belongs to Almighty Yah, and that I believe that when the folks was digging for gold, you know what I'm saying, I believe, man, before the flood, that that the different you know peoples that wasn't man of Adam, dug in different geography and stuff, different parts of the earth, and that they had to have pigmentation that would suit them for that environment. I'm gonna make a video about this later on, and I'm gonna go into a little more detail. You got the Africans in Africa digging gold. You got the peoples up in the cold regions that we would call Caucasians digging for gold, and then you got the peoples that's what we call red or yellowish, they digging for gold. You know what I'm saying? And you even had them type of folks over here in America and so forth. But I'm gonna go into that one day. But the main thing that Almighty Yah wanted us to do is to worship Him, and that He gave us His law. For thou art a holy people unto the Elohim thy Yah. The Elohim thy Yah had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So it's about the worship of Yah, and not our individualism and so forth, which when you start putting an ethnic group above this ethnic group, that's gonna be somewhat self-worship, and we ain't supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's like this here. Let me show you this, man. We supposed to be a priestly nation to the Creator. We supposed to be a priestly nation, so we were set aside. So we couldn't go mix up with all the different ethnic groups and peoples that wasn't exposed to Yah worship, because they would pull us away. This race issue didn't start to the basically to the transatlantic slave trade, when they start this racial issue about classifying peoples as blacks and whites and so forth. And I'm gonna explain the reason that happened is because the Israelites ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars and sojourned in Africa. So we would be a pigmented people. So everything or anybody that got pigmentation that's coming out of Africa gonna be hated, because that's where the Israelites were, and that's where we went to hide during the Babylonian Wars, breaking the covenant for the Egyptian religion. And then we was took into the Americas, and like I said, Almighty Yah heritage is like a speckled bird, and we know that once we was in captivity, we was gonna get, once we get enslaved, the folks was gonna rape the Israelites, and then produce men of offspring, and that's in the Tanakh too. But let me show you this here, and then I'm gonna get into the little verses why it's about the worship of Yah and not your degree of pigmentation. You got, these so-called Caucasians, the people that got less pigmentation, man, they got red hair and blue eyes. That's pigmentation. You got some so-called Caucasians with black hair and brown eyes. Man, that's pigmentation. It might not be in the degree that we want it in the areas that we want it in, but they got pigmentation. Everybody got a degree of pigmentation on this earth. It just might not be in high quantities and so forth. All right, look at this right here. Look, and ye shall. This is Exodus 18. Now this Exodus 19:6. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So we're supposed to be a priestly nation. So we couldn't just go mix up with everybody, because the chances of being dragged away from Yah worship was high. And it's kind of like that, now today, that when the Israelite, go off out of his heritage, that, they kind of forget the things that made them who they are. All right, let's go into some scriptures. Let's get into some scriptures, but it's about the worship of Almighty Yah. And the reason that we Israelites can't or shouldn't be prejudiced is that every nation and everybody got to worship Almighty Yah. So what we look like being prejudiced, telling folks or holding grudges against peoples because of their degree of pigmentation, man, that'll be stopping them from coming to worship Yah. That's our main job as Israelites, is to get the peoples to worship Yah. You know, that's what our job was, as I just shown. But if you go to Micah, let's go to Micah. This is during Prophet Isaiah time. Hey, how about soon as I open the book, I turn right to it. Right to it. Look. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountains of the house of the Elohim shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. It didn't say what kind of people, it said people shall flow to it. And look, and many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Elohim and to the house of the YAH of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Elohim for Jerusalem. Now, how in the world is we Israelites gonna be prejudiced against somebody, stopping them from come worshiping the Creator when we get settled in our heritage? We can't do that. Almighty Yah be against you, because the goal from the beginning was that the Israelites be a priestly nation, and we was chosen to do that, to bring all peoples to Yah worship. So we can't hold nobody back because their degree of pigmentation. Let me show you Israelites this too. But you see what it says, and many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Elohim, into the house of the YAH of Jacob. Now, it's many nations around the world, and we know that when we get ready to come back home, and that the nations that's gonna bring us home, 9 out of 10 won't be no Israelites. And I can't see the Africans being in the position to bring us and settle us in the promised land. You know, that's not gonna happen, and I can't see the Chinese bringing us to the promised land and settling us in our heritage. So it's gonna possibly be the peoples like the Tanakh say that inflicted the problems on us, that they gonna bring us home, and they gonna be non-pigmented peoples. The reason that the peoples claim a Israelite heritage that are non-pigmented is because we Israelites left our heritage to go into Africa to worship Egyptian religion to some people that wasn't pigmented, that come from the north. Men that come from the north. Man, I'm going to get back into this YAH worship. I'm going to just do a little more history around this. Look, so you know there was going to be some peoples in our heritage that wasn't like us, or didn't necessarily look like us. And if he called the peoples from the north of us, and look, you'll see right there, and then in the north of us is going to be them folks. All right. Let's see what Prophet Jeremiah had to say about it. This will be our last act on the promised land. Man, before we was, driven into Africa, that Prophet Jeremiah was telling us what would happen and who would, come to get us up off the land. And look, this is Jeremiah 1:14. Then the Elohim said unto me, out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith the Elohim, and they shall come, and they shall set every one his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all the walls thereabout, and against all the cities of Judah. And we know who is on the walls, praying at the walls, praying at the walls of Jerusalem right now. Praying at the wall. And they pray at the wall right now today. Just like, and then they come from the north. Like the Creator said. And that's gonna be Ashkenazi. You know what I'm saying? And what they doing. There's gonna be some self-harders. They come from the north too, northeast of us. But look, praying at the wall. Praying at the wall. And I showed that in plenty of videos that Ashkenazi was called Scythians, and that they came and settled in our land called Beth Shem, but they changed it to Scythopolis, and they would be non-pigmented peoples. They wouldn't have the degree of pigmentation that we had, and that they would settle in our land. And back in the 500 BCE, that's a long time. And then that how that they would go back to their homelands of Germany and Ukraine and so forth with the Israelite title and so forth. So then they peoples up here would see them with the Israelite title, and then they would accept that. And then they would, have a heritage up here. And then they would, eventually all of them that had our heritage and title would move down here to the promised land in 1948 or something like that, but they had been there already, and they was non-pigmented peoples and didn't have the degree of pigmentation. And then they would, create Christianity, and Christianity look at the Ashkenazi community as the chosen people. So that's how Ashkenazi got in our heritage, and them not having the degree of pigmentation we have. And then the next group will be the Sephardists. They got pigmentation, and they got pigmentation. And they've been everywhere. But they got pigmentation. The Sephardians. This is Ashkenazi. And Ashkenazi and the Sephardians. And these will be the peoples in our heritage that got a hold to our heritage. And this one wouldn't have no pigmentation. Maybe some, a little bit from living in what's called the Middle East and, mixing a little bit. But they mostly of what they call Caucasian stock. And these folks right here that we abandon our heritage to, the Sephardics, they are Amorites. Man, they like a chameleon. Man, they can change colors. Man, they mix with with everybody, all the pigmented folks, and then they can, say that they got a little African in them. You'll see them with some pigmentation. I'm trying to find some pictures I had. It goes some of them. No, those are gonna be the African ones that they converted a long time ago. They converted them. Well, let's see if I can pull an image of this stuff, man. This stuff. Now let's see if we can get an image of them. Here they go. Here they go. Now, they would have pigmentation. And they would have a degree of pigmentation. And they would be in our heritage. But they can't stand us. And they know who we are. They know that we the Israelites. Those folks came into our heritage and they didn't have a significant degree of pigmentation, and then they would be Canaanites because they're Amorites, and they wouldn't have no pigmentation also. And then they would get the Israelite heritage and take it and convert folks all around the world. So you got peoples with all different degrees of pigmentation claiming the Israelite heritage and so forth. And that we original Israelites had a significant degree of pigmentation, but if you look at this, and we're gonna read this from the Tanakh, that it was some what we would call Caucasians today in our heritage, and they were Israelites. All right, look at this right here. We're gonna go over this. All right. So when you get to Leviticus 13, and then you get down to verse 13, I'm gonna read both of them. This is from the Tanakh. This is from the Tanakh right here. All right. If the priest see that the eruption has covered the whole body, he shall pronounce the affected person clean. He is clean, for he has turned all what? All white. Look, he is clean after he done turned all white. So that'd be kind of like these folks right here. Everybody didn't have the degree of pigmentation, and Almighty Yah made exceptions, that if they was all white, and man, they can function the same as, other Israelites. And then I'm going to show y'all a story where King David killed the so-called Hittite, who was a Caucasian, had him killed and took his woman. And that how Almighty Yah killed the firstborn of Bathsheba, and supposedly with King David, and because of that Hittite being killed, and Almighty Yah was mad because that Hittite, Uri the Hittite, who served in Almighty Yah's army, was killed by an Ammonite, a non-believer. So it's about the worship of Yah. But look here, you see what Leviticus 13 say. So, many folks with all different degrees of pigmentation, but the bottom line is that we got to be Yah worshipers. We got to be some Yah worshipers, and we can't fault nobody because they was born in a certain way. Look, now she got pigmented parents. Pigmented parents is what they call African albino. Look, she got blue eyes and blonde hair and red lips. Man, we had them like that in the promised land. And I just showed you in Leviticus where it says that if they all turn white, that they had the same privileges that all the rest of the Israelites had. Many had the same privileges. So, it's about Yah worship. And it's not about your individuality and how you feel, but it's about Yah worship. Man, it's about Yah worship. And I'm gonna show you this, that Almighty Yah want everybody to worship Him. And like I just read you in the book of Micah, how all nations have to come, and I'm gonna read that again. Look, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountains of the house of the Elohim shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the peoples shall flow unto it. And it say what degree of pigmentation the peoples will be. And many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountains of the Elohim and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion. So many nations got to come to worship Yah. And we can't say, hey, you can't come because your degree of pigmentation is not the same as ours. That wouldn't make no sense. That's like them Israelites. They err so hard. The ones in the camp are misidentifying the Japhetic tribes or peoples descended from Europe and calling them Edomites. And them folks ain't lived nowhere in our lands and so forth until they invaded. Almighty Yah called them down by prophet Jeremiah and how that they had not been living in those areas south in large quantities and so forth, even though some of them did. But let me show you this. Isaiah 2:4. Isaiah 2:4. Man, there's plenty of verses, man. I'm talking about where it's just about the worship of Yah and nothing else matters. That's why we Israelites got in trouble, because we didn't worship Almighty Yah with our whole heart. Alright? And then here it is. Alright? Look at this. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Elohim house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills. And look, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Elohim, to the house of the Yah of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his path. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Elohim from Jerusalem. Guess why they gonna say that? Because they gonna be done seen what happened to us breaking covenant, and how those prophecies about our destruction came to pass. And you can see it in history. It's documented. I got it documented thoroughly what happened to us. How we broke the covenant. I'm doing the Israelite history all kind of ways. So there's no escaping. We broke the covenant and went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Man, that set us back. But listen, it's about Yah worship. How can all nations come to Almighty Yah if we judging peoples by their pigmentation or degree of pigmentation? And the reason we have to Edom, and we can pinpoint who Edom is, because Edom's supposed to be on the land controlling our heritage. Somebody other than Ashkenazi, and those gonna be peoples now that's being attacked by Ashkenazi. I'm gonna go into a little of the history of what's going on in the promised land and why them folks at each other. I'm gonna get another video in about that. But you see in Isaiah, when he say, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountains of the Elohim, to the house of the Yah of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, because they gonna be none seen. Man, the truth that how we the real Israelites, and how we suffered them curses, and that how we been restored into our heritage, and then how after going through all this stuff, how we got an open heart to embrace the nations that didn't help us in no kind of way, and that was basically against us. You know, the only people that we gonna be against is the Edomites. We gonna be against the Edomites. All right, man, let's go to Zechariah 14, and this is what else I want to express about the book of Zechariah is that, you know, those Edomites, we know that the Tanakh was the only book in the only history around about the Israelites until about 100 so-called AD, and then they start writing what they call the New Testament, and then in the New Testament you got the book of Revelations, and then in the book of Revelations, man, they talk about these different color horses that's flying around doing 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 this and doing that. You know what I'm saying? And look, and I saw, behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. That'd be that Revelation 6, you know, and then it go into the black horse. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. All right, and then it go on, and look, I beheld and a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with pestilence. All right, and then look here in in 520 BCE, when Zechariah wrote this, it wasn't no book of Revelations around, and everybody had our books. The Edomites had been in our heritage since we abandoned it for Egyptian religion, and they had our books, and they would create prophetic sayings and so forth off of our heritage, and that's what the New Testament consists of, because they didn't write the Tanakh. You know, it's recorded how we Israelites are responsible for our history, categorizing it and everything. You know, and that how when it fell into the hands of the peoples that we abandoned our heritage to, and that they started translating our heritage into their languages and so forth. But them horses, if you read the book of Zechariah, he gonna talk about, you know what I'm saying, the horses and so forth. You know, he gonna tell you about the black horse and the white horse and so forth, and then how in Revelations they gonna be nothing got that from here. You know what I'm saying? Man, from us, our history, and then they put their spin on it. Look, and it shall come to pass, this is Zechariah 14:16, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which come against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Elohim of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. You see what I'm saying? So everybody gonna have to come worship. Everybody gonna come worship when we get settled in our heritage. Everybody gonna want to come worship, because they gonna see that, you know, the things that the prophets were saying has come to pass. All right, let me see this here. All right, all right. Let's go to these verses right here. I want to show here, and let's go to Psalms 50, Psalms 150. And then it says, Praise ye the Elohim, praise the Elohim in his sanctuary, praise him in the firmament of his power, praise him for his holy mighty acts, praise him according to his excellent greatness, praise him with the sound of the trumpet, praise him with the psaltery and harp, praise him with the timbrel and dance, and praise him with the string instruments and organs, praise him upon the loud cymbals, praise him unto praise him upon the high sounding cymbals. Let everything that hath breath praise the Elohim, praise the Elohim. So that's what it's about, man. It's about praising Almighty Yah, and it's not about the degree of your pigmentation. But I want to go to this little part about about King David, King David, and how he had that Hittite killed, and then how Almighty Yah would be, against him for having that Hittite killed, and that how, that wasn't a good thing, and that how it was about the worship, of Yah, instead of your individualism. Alright, let's see if I can find this real quick. Yeah, King David had that Hittite killed. Second Samuel. Here it is. Let's go to Second Samuel's. That'll be 11. Now this is what a Hittite look like. Let's show what a Hittite look like. Alright. Here's the Hittites. And we had one in YAH's army fighting with King David, and his name was Uri the Hittite, and he was married to a Hebrew woman. He had Bathsheba as his woman. We wasn't worried about, your degree of pigmentation, because it was about the worship of Yah, and we was on track with King David, and that's what it was about, the worship of Yah. That's why this Hittite, was in the army, and it didn't matter his degree of pigmentation, so this is what happened. Alright, this is 2 Samuel's 11. And it come to pass after the year was expired at the time when the kings go forth, So he went and seen Bathsheba and her, up on the roof and stuff, and then, he sent messengers to us, they told her, they told him, and David sent and inquired about the woman, and one said, is not this Bathsheba? She probably bathing up there knowing that the king come out and he gonna be able to see her and stuff. So, she probably did that on purpose. Alright, the daughter of Elam. So, he had she had a Hebrew father and stuff, the wife of Uri the Hittite. So, Uri knocked her off. You know how them sisters, some of them just, hard go all kind of ways and stuff. But she was with Uri the Hittite, and then King David peeped her and knocked her off. And then, he sent and had his right hand man to take Uri and put him on the front line, put him in the hot spot where he knew he was gonna get killed and so forth, and got his woman. And then Almighty Yah didn't like that at all. You know what I'm saying? And then this is what happened. And the Elohim sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, there were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, save his little ewe lamb, which he had brought and nourished up, and it grew up and together with him and with his children. He did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter.
And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come unto him. So it's this rich man that had plenty, just went and snatched some, what little that the poor man supposedly had, and parted off it. That's cruel. And it's supposed to be, what King David did and stuff. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, as the Lord liveth, the man that had done these things shall surely die, and he surely shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and because he had no pity. And Nathan said, man, to David, thou art the man. This said the Elohim Yah, I anointed thee king over Israel and delivered thee out of the hands of Saul, and I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives unto thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Elohim to do evil in his sight, that thou hast killed Uri the Hittite with the sword? You know what I'm saying? With the sword of the Edomites. Look, had killed him. Look, you see, so he had Uri the Hittite killed with the sword, and had taken his wife to be thy wife, and had slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall, so he didn't kill the believer. You know, Almighty Yah was mad at King David because King David had a believer that believed in him killed and so forth. And it wasn't about Uri's pigmentation. It wasn't about Uri's pigmentation. And that how it was strictly meant about the worship of Yah. It was strictly about the worship of Almighty Yah. And how King David didn't have Uri killed because Uri was a Caucasian. He had Uri killed because he wanted his woman. That's what King David wanted. He wanted his woman. And Almighty Yah was mad at King David because he didn't have a Yah worshiper killed. And so Almighty Yah punished King David and took away his first son by that woman and stuff. Solomon would, eventually be born through her, and we know how Solomon did it. Because Solomon mama had messed off with other ethnic groups, Solomon did the same thing, and it brung our whole nation down also too. Because what? Solomon went after the strange women's gods, the other ethnic groups' gods, the women gods, and he made temples for them and everything in the promised land. Solomon was messed up big time. And then that caused our downfall, what Solomon did too. And the Creator was mad at Solomon. Look. But King Solomon loved many strange women together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and the Hittites, of all the nations concerning which the Elohim said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go unto them, neither shall they come in to you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. See, that's what it's about. So it's not about your degree of pigmentation. That's like us having the degree of pigmentation that we got. We gonna turn the people to Yah, whereas the peoples in the past that didn't have pigmentation would take you away from Yah. And it's kind of like that now today. So we gonna change the plurality of that. You know what I'm saying? It's like when they say the North Pole shift, it's gonna shift, whereas the peoples that's less pigmented will take you away from Yah, and we gonna bring you back to Almighty Yah. It's gonna change.
All right, Israelites. Man, it's just a whole lot of history, man, that I could just get in here. But we know that the bottom line, that it's not about pigmentation or what degree of pigmentation you got, but the worship. You know what I'm saying? The Almighty Yah. And Almighty Yah knew we would, you know, be enslaved and stuff. You know, he knew that, and that we would be different in in not necessarily ethnicity, but in degree of pigmentation, as you know, than what we once were, and so forth. And if you read the curses, man, it's full of what your enemy would take your sons and your daughters away. And you know, if they took your sons and your daughters away, that they gonna mix with them. And then if they mix with us, and then them kids will still have a Israelite heritage. You know what I'm saying? Look at this right here. All right. This is Jeremiah 31:20-27. Behold, the days come, saith the Elohim, that I will saw the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. So, you know, you're going to have Israelites, man, mixed with all kind of other ethnic groups and so forth, but they going to be still Israelites, and we have to embrace them if they Yah worshipers, and we have to embrace everybody that's, you know, want to worship Almighty Yah, and we have to lead the way, and we cannot be prejudiced, you know, judge people by the degree of pigmentation. That's like, man, I got this on record, and I'm gonna say it again. One time, I was at the swimming pool. You know, I was over my relative house. I couldn't swim. I was about 8, 9 years old. I couldn't really swim. I couldn't swim at all. And I was floating on this raft, this plastic raft, in 9 feet of water. And it was just me and my female cousin in the water. And then this Caucasian male came to the pool. And this was during racial times and racial tension. And how he was the only adult at the pool. This Caucasian, he had just came, and then he came when I had fell off the float in the 9 feet of water, and I was drowning and I couldn't swim. And then he dived in and pulled me out and saved me. And all he had to do was just say, "Yeah, I couldn't swim either. I was just looking at the water," and I'd have been dead, and I wouldn't be here today to share this Israelite history that I've been sharing. You know, all praise be to Almighty Yah, but he sent that Caucasian male in that water, and he pulled me out, and he pumped my stomach and got all the water out and everything. And so they let me know that it's not about your degree of pigmentation. You know, the reason we was punished in this system that we was punished in, because, you know, we were a pigmented people that had went into Africa to sojourn. So, you know, if we sojourn in there for some thousands of years, that, you know, we're going to be pigmented, deeply pigmented. And then when they transport us, you know, to the Americas and so forth, and then they strip us of our name and start calling us blacks, and then they create this hatred towards the so-called black people, but really it's hatred towards the Israelites that they captured, because the people who enslaved us knew who we were. All right, Israelites, I just want to express that it's about how it's about your degree of it's not about your degree of pigmentation. And that's like everybody starting to get on the Israelite bandwagon. Look at this. Trump exposes black Israelites. You know, everybody's supposed to be, you know, coming into the understanding of this, but we got to help them come into the understanding with truth. We have to help them come into the Israelite understanding with truth, and we can't do that if we blinded by this person degree of pigmentation. You know, we'll be stopping them from worshiping Yah if you judge them by their pigmentation, their degree of pigmentation. You know what you should judge them by is they gonna worship YAH or not. Shalom, Israelites. A message from the Israelite Brotherhood.